Okay, now for the fun part for me. I'm going to start by honoring our two Korean War veterans that are here tonight. So, Loretta, if you want to come up. So, Loretta served in the Air Force during the Korean War. She also is a sister to my friend Tony, who I grew up through the block from, and she went to school with my dad, so she's like my buddy. So it says, this certificate is presented in honor of Loretta Duncan in recognition and grateful appreciation for serving in the United States Armed Forces in the name of freedom and democracy, and for allegiance to God and country in courageously protecting our liberty and independence. Presented by the Spanish Fork Post 68, Department of Utah on this 9th day of March, 2022, signed Becky Nepper. Oh, and she got to go on the honor flight back to Washington, D.C. several years ago.
And I was the only Korean War.
And she was the only Korean War veteran on that flight. And she just turned 90 last month, 2 months ago.
I just turned 90 in January.
Yeah, in January, so.
Oh, there you go. Good. I'm married to a guest list.
Oh, you are?
Yep.
That's awesome. Very lucky.
And she makes friends everywhere she goes.
And I love parties. I'm a
Did
party
you want to
animal.
say something? You got to get close to the mic.
I'm so glad that I was honored tonight. Thank you so much, everyone. I served in the Air Force, and I had a wonderful experience there. I was the very first WAF that went to George Air Force Base in the Mojave Desert, and then they promoted me to be secretary to the woman that's over all the Western Air Force women. Then after that, they sent me to Oklahoma A&M University to learn a special language and to do shorthand. So I came out of that. I came out of that school honored by being one of the very first top women in the Air Force to graduate with high honors. Then they sent me to Massachusetts. I don't know if any of the men here would remember, but I was serving in the Military Air Transport Service. I think most of you might remember. They took soldiers all over the world. Then when I was stationed there, I want everybody to know this experience that I had, because it's awesome. I worked for a Master Sergeant Barton. She was the toughest woman I've ever met in my whole life, and I was a shy young girl at that time. We used to have those old typewriters that you couldn't make with carbon copies, and you couldn't make a mistake. I think some of you might remember. So anyway, if I made one mistake, she'd throw that thing back at me right across the aisle. Scared me to death. But you know what I learned from her? I learned to do something right the first time, and you don't have to do it over. Got it? That's one thing I did learn. Make it right the first time. Well, because I did that, and I was very keen on making sure I did it right, I was promoted to the Major General's office. I was secretary to the Major General of the Military Air Transport Service. That I am very, very proud of. And I worked for a Major General, and I also worked for, a Brigadier General. So I've had wonderful experiences in the Women's Air Force, and it's taught me a lot of things throughout my life. And I'm just very, very proud to have served. Thank you.
Okay, our next Korean War veteran is Richard Money, who happened to go to school with Loretta. So if you can come up, Richard. Richard is one of our valuable members of our honor guard that does the military rites at veterans' funerals. He too, if he's not 90, then he's 89. But sometime this year he'll be 90. Are you 90 yet?
What's that?
Are you 90
I
yet?
got 2 more months. If I make
Okay,
it.
2 more months if he makes it. Anyway, we can always count on him at our military funerals, and we appreciate that. So his certificate says the same thing Loretta's did. This certificate is presented in honor of Richard Money in recognition of his recognition and grateful appreciation for serving in the United States Armed Forces in the name of freedom and democracy, and for allegiance to God and country, and courageously protecting our liberty and independence. Presented by the Spanish Fork Post 68, Department of Utah, on this 9th day of March, 2022, signed Becky Nepper.
So, thank you.
I think I can. There.
Yeah, I can go along to it, I guess.
Okay.
I just got to mention Loretta here. We were school chums from junior high through high school, and she did put up with me. She never did, but I remember do anything to get me upset. But she was a good high school buddy, and I've always appreciated her. My experience in the service was I went in the Navy in 1950 and I ended up in Alaska, and I was in communications, and our job was to basically relay messages from ship to shore, from shore to ship, to other countries. And we had ships
Get up
scattered
close to your mouth.
all around the world. Now, you can take one of these things right here and talk to anybody around the world. Just no big deal. But I enjoyed being in the service, and it was good for me, and I appreciate. I did end up in Korea my last year over there. We stayed over there for about a year, and anyway, I am so grateful for this Post 68. They're a great bunch of people, and I'm grateful for this young lady right here for all that she does. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay. Unfortunately, our other Korean War veterans were unable to make it today, so we'll get their awards and certificates to them later on.
Commander, who were they?
Oh, Jack Volkart, who is one of our members, and Gilbert Lydiard, who also is one of our post members. Like I said earlier, we have a lot of other, I think we have about 11 more Korean War veterans, but some of them are just incapacitated and weren't able to come, so we will get them the same certificate and award that our 2 veterans here today got. So, as most of you probably know, Steve Adams was our chief of police for 10 years, and before that, just a police officer of various different types, right? He had various different jobs. His mother was also my primary teacher, so that makes him even more special. So, our law enforcement certificate of commendation is presented to Stephen G. Adams of the Spanish Fork Department of Public Safety. This commendation is awarded for outstanding public service, benefiting our community, state, and nation, presented by the Spanish Fork Post 68, Department of Utah, on this 9th day of March, 2022. Signed, Becky Nepper. Along with that, there's a gift card to, I tried to find a local small business to get gift cards for our public our community honorees. But my brother Mark donated gift cards to his coffee shop, which is over on Center Street and just off of University Avenue in Provo. And it is called Java Junkies because they have various different drinks named after junkies like Kurt Cobain and Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley and Jimi Hendrix, and you don't have to have them with the coffee. And they also have soup and sandwiches. So lunch for you and your wife on us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
You're welcome.
If I could just take a quick second, it's a great honor to be honored or celebrated my career from you Legionnaires. I look up to you immensely. The service that you've provided the country to allow us to be where we're at today. You look at Ukraine and what they're going through. The people that are fighting there are your brothers and sisters, the people like you fighting for them. It's so awing to me to know what you have done for the country and your service you've provided, and then to be honored by you. And not only me, but my father and my father-in-law were honored by you in their passing at their graves. Again, another service that you're providing to the community, and it doesn't go unnoticed. They're great people. I look up to every one of you and hope to be as good as you someday. Thank you.
We also have an award for our former mayor, Steve Leifson, but he's not here, so we will give that to him. So our next honoree, I don't want that to fall, is Lane Henderson. So Lane's certificate is a certificate of appreciation. This certificate of appreciation is gratefully presented to Lane Henderson in recognition and sincere appreciation of outstanding service and assistance which contributed to the advancement of the American Legion programs and activities dedicated to God and country, presented by the Spanish Fork Post 68, Department of Utah, this 9th day of March, 2022, signed Becky Nepper. One of our charters as an American Legion is to promote patriotism and to our children and our community. And through Lane, through J-Mart Publishing and Printing, they have provided us a valuable asset to be able to print stuff, oftentimes for free or at a reduced amount, so that we can continue with that mission. From our Freedom Walk to our newsletter to let our members know what's going on, to invitations. Just it's been immeasurable because we're a nonprofit. We have to have a golf tournament to raise money to provide for these things, and we have to beg for money from other people. So we appreciate his contribution, in-kind contribution. So he too has a gift card to Java Junkies, and Monty recommends the Jimi Hendrix, if you like, hot pepper in your hot chocolate. So,
Great tip. If I could, I would. That would be great.
Thank you so much. There are certain things that stir your soul. And tonight as I walked in, it stirred my soul because there's a plaque on that wall that you might not be aware of. But it was from when my father was here. And it's when he raised money for the Veterans Memorial. And I remember I bought the newspaper from him a few years prior to that, and he came to me and he said this, he said, I want you to donate a page of advertising, an editorial to the American Legion until we raise enough money to build that Veterans Memorial. And as a newspaper and as employees there, we did. We made all those editorials possible. We kept a thermometer of donations as they were given. And now that became a reality. And as I walked in and showed my wife, I said, that's what that plaque's for. Because the state of Utah gave us the Community Service Award for serving the American Legion in the city of Spanish Fork. That's never given very often to any newspaper, especially a small newspaper. And so it stirred my soul. One other thing that stirred my soul, we lived outside the country for 3 years. And I remember on our port of entry coming home. It was Denver, and I remember seeing the flag for the first time in 3 years. And I remember what I felt to be home. And it stirred my soul about patriotism and service and love. And then about 1.5 years ago, something else stirred my soul. My wife's father passed away. And the military rights were given for him that day. And I remember sitting there in awe as I watched you, with your devoted and selfless service, in a very dignified and respectful way, honor someone that had served. And I remember seeing Doc Johnson that day, and Randy Jensen, 2 of my friends. And I went up to him and I said, as long as I'm around, don't worry about paying any bills. You've earned it, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Don't sit down quite yet, Lane. I really feel inspired to say something. I've had an extremely close relationship with Lane and his mom and dad for more years than I can count. But the thing that I wanted to say before Lane sits down was that when I was the commander of our post, it was my honor to give your dad his 50-year membership in the American Legion Award. And I'll never forget that. I thought, 50 years? How could anybody be a member of anything for 50 years? And your sweet dad was, and it was for several years until his passing after that. But when Lane ran, and his mom and dad ran the Spanish Fork Press, our local newspaper, I just have to echo what Lane said about the attention and love and at no cost promotion that the Spanish Fork Press, Lane and his mom and dad gave our American Legion group. It was just enormous, and I was part of that because I was the commander when the memorial was being built, and every time we would get a $1,000 donation, Lane and JC made sure that there was a picture in the press of that person giving that check to our committee. And I can't tell you how much that meant, because every time a picture of someone in the community giving that check to our memorial committee, the next week somebody else come up with $1,000, and then another 1,000, and we just kept getting check after check of $1,000 donations, and I blame that all on the Henderson family. If it hadn't been for your selfless doing that for us, I don't know if that memorial had ever been built as well as it is. And so, Lane, I just, as somebody that used to write for you, I love you and your wife and your mom and dad dearly, and I just can't say enough about the thanks that I would give you. And the same goes with Steve. Steve Adams, I remember your dad and Marla's dad were Legionnaires, and your dad was on the veterans, or your father-in-law was on the veterans committee for I don't know how many years, 120 years already. I don't know. It seemed like forever. Your dad-in-law was on that the Veterans Council. What a great family, what a great heritage you guys have. And so, Lane and Steve, my hat, I salute you.
Thank you.
you. I forgot to mention that Lane also employed my daughter Heather, so that makes him even more special.
It's right up there by primary.
Right up there by primary, you betcha. So our next honoree is Matt Johnson. So if you'll come up. So Matt's our new chief of police. So I only have the gift certificate for him because he's got to prove himself. Although I think he's got a pretty good start because his father was the commander before me and was the he came up with our Freedom Walk, which will be celebrating its 5th year this year. So we're just happy to have him as our new chief of police and happy to give him a little token of our appreciation for his public service, because you've been a police officer for how long?
27 years.
27 years. Wow. That's how long I spent in the Army, and it felt like a lifetime. So thank you. Do you want to say something?
Sure. Thanks, Becky. This is a privilege to be here this evening. As I look throughout the audience here, there's many of you that I've become acquainted with, and I just wanted to let you all know I'm very appreciative of this. Thank you for what you've done for our country as well as our community. I just want you to know that you can rest easy at night because our public safety department's made up of some of the most dedicated and competent individuals serving in the public safety career, and it's because of your support as well as the support of our mayor and our council and our city administration that we are successful. But once again, thank you, and it's an honor to be here this evening.
Not that I have a connection to everybody, but his dad was my dentist and my dad was a police officer. So he's even more special. Our next one is Mayor Mendenhall, and doggone it, Mike, I don't know that we have any kind of a connection, except I voted for him. So there it is. So if you want to come up. So once again, I don't have a certificate for him because even though he was on the city council and did a lot of great stuff, he still has to prove himself as a mayor. So I do have a gift card for him. And you were on the city council for how long?
8 years.
8 years. And how many months have you been the mayor? 2?
Yes.
Okay. You're on a roll.
I'm on probation.
Yeah, he's on probation. But we do appreciate all the support that the American Legion gets from our mayor and our city councilmen. They support us with our Freedom Walk, and anything we ask them to do, they're right there for us. So we appreciate that, and I'm going to let him say a few words if he'd like.
Thank you, Becky.
Nothing political.
Nothing political. I won't get political, but I will wear a hat and glasses when I go over to Provo and shop. You know.
I know, it's got a Spanish Fork connection.
Okay, all right. As long as I'll get over there. Thank you all for having me tonight. I look out and see familiar faces, and to echo a little bit of what Lane said, every time I walk in this building, it does stir up memories of when I was younger. I'll just start down the line of some of the people that I'm up here with, but Lane's dad, J.C., and my grandpa, Lynn Mendenhall, were friends. And I was taught that from a young age, and I remember being in this building with both of those men, and I was just a little boy. But I'll never forget, my dad will never let me forget, my dad, John Mendenhall, which I know some of you know. He always talks about Tiny Larson. He's got a million stories there. And Steve Wilson as well. But He never let me forget the patriotism that my grandfather and J.C. Henderson, and I know so many of you here in this Legion exhibit. He never let me forget that they didn't tell the truth about their age to sign up for military service. And that's how patriotic they were to serve, to fight, and defend our community and our country. And so I was always proud to know that my grandpa was a veteran and served like so many of you in this room. Our police chief, Chief Adams, when I signed up to run for mayor, he told me like the week after that he was retiring, and I'm like, what? I'm not sure that I'm going to continue this campaign then. And that reason why is simply because of the good man he is. Such a good police chief for a decade, but a police officer for much longer. His wife Marla, and the support that they gave our men and women in blue that serve your community day in, day out. It was just something inspiring to see as somebody that got involved with the city. I can tell you, Chief Johnson has carried that on, and his wife Christine. If you don't know this, you will now, but it was pretty interesting to see him sworn in as our new police chief and sworn in by his wife, who's a judge, Judge Johnson, swearing him in. I don't know that happens too often, and if it's ever going to happen again here. But I can tell you they are great people as well. Great leaders at the helm of a department that day in, day out, night in, night out, are keeping us safe in our community. I'll tell you one quick story that shows you the human side of these people here. They see tough things. They see people on their very worst days. And I know that goes along with many of your years of service here. But a story I'll never forget that was now a few years ago is Chief Adams relaying a story to us about a youth who had suffered from depression, anxiety, and didn't know how to get out of it, and ended up attempting suicide. Tough scene for anybody to come on to. Our public safety department that shows up to a scene like that, and it was only after that it was known to us and told to us of how much care our public safety department had with that youth. Holding them, loving them, trying to save their life, but letting them know that we love you and your mom loves you and she's on the way. And that statement will never, ever leave me, the way that Chief Adams told us as elected officials how much our public safety department cares for our people. Not only professionally takes care of the day in and day out tough stuff, but how much they care about the people they're taking care of too. So publicly, thank you to your many years and upcoming years of service to Chief Johnson. We're not going to let him retire for 30 more years either. He's going to be here for a long time. But I can tell you personally too, the work you do every time the last rites at our cemetery is something that makes everybody stand a little taller. Whether you've served or not, it is certainly something that everyone stops and takes notice of. The service you render to our community is hugely important. It's vital to our success of maintaining and growing the quality of life and why people love Spanish Fork. So thank you for this. But Mayor Leifson let me know to pass along to you how much he loves and respects you as an organization. He did have a procedure that he thought he'd be fine from, but they took a little more off the side of his head than he thought they would for a skin thing. So he's resting at home, and Cheryl's taking care of him. But he loves this organization. History and tradition is steeped in it very much for the Leifson family as well. And so he passes on his best wishes to you as well. So thank you for being part of what I consider definitely the greatest city in the greatest state in the greatest country in the world. I spent last week in Washington, D.C. on some city business, and I can tell you, I couldn't get on a plane quick enough to get back to the place that we enjoy as residents of Spanish Fork. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. So the other community honoree was Barbara Meadows. I'm not sure why they're not here, but they're not here. But they make the crosses for us that are at our Flanders Field every Memorial Day. And that's just invaluable. That if you haven't been up there and seen it, then you need to do it this year, because we have 1,800 plus crosses up there now. And it's just amazing, you know, with the backdrop of our beautiful mountains and our beautiful cemetery. It's just hits your heart, and it's just breathtaking. We did, as a post last year, we did 114 funerals. Ray's not here tonight to tell me exactly how many we've done this year, but I think we're pushing 28. We've done 28 funerals so far this year.
A little bit ahead of last year's.
And we have one coming up on Friday. And I'm just going to tell you a little story about that. I've already told this at a post meeting, but I moved back here from South Dakota in 2012. And my father passed away. We moved in the summer. He passed away in November. And being the obnoxious person that I am, I said to my family, we are not going to have some ragtag American Legion, VFW military rites at my dad's funeral. He's having military rites from airmen from Hill Air Force Base. And my brother said, no, you need to call Glenn Bradford and have him have the post. No, Marvin, my dad deserves better than that. And then when we showed up at the cemetery, and rats, I'm gonna start bawling. Saw all of you guys standing there. It was just amazing. And we've gotten so many letters and thank yous from people like me who go to their loved ones' services and see what a wonderful job these guys do. And sometimes I'm there. And you know, I just send out an email and they show up. And sometimes we do 8 in a week. And I just want to let you guys know how much I appreciate our Honor Guard and all that they do for our fallen veterans and for their families. And I think that is the end of our program. So let's see. The carnations that are on the table, you can take the carnations with you, but please leave the bud vases. We may need them again, because we are a nonprofit. And thanks for coming. Thanks for honoring our veterans and our community leaders. And have a safe drive home, because I think I don't know, is it snowing now or not snowing? I don't know. Anyway. Thanks again for coming, and with that, I'm going to close the meeting.